Game started.
Oh, we got a game. Tresiag. Okay, against e4. Let's try the center counter. Haven't played that in a while. I tried to increase the contrast on these pieces here. So the darker pieces are a little darker, the lighter pieces are a little lighter, and the board itself, I lightened up the colors here because I had a suggestion, a comment that maybe they were a little bit difficult to see. So if you have an opinion about whether you like these colors or not, this color scheme, or if you like it better than it was previously or worse, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and focus on the game now. So this is the normal thing with the center counter or Scandinavian opening. I get the pawn back. If white tries too hard to hold on to the pawn, it's a good gambit for black. So this is okay. Let's see, he's stopping me from playing e5. This is defended still. Let's get the bishop out of the way before. I might end up playing e6. So if I develop the bishop here, then I can play e6, which will support the knight. It won't be necessary anymore. It's a little unusual to take at that point. I guess, well, I guess the knight's well defended here. So now I could exchange, and that's probably not good. Bishop on this diagonal is just fine. So I should develop, right? Let's put this pawn up and open the line for this bishop so I can castle. And if the knight goes somewhere, I can take that bishop. The knight has no good discovered attacks. The bishop is hanging, though, after the knight moves, so I have to make sure I don't get in trouble. So maybe bishop to this square. It's hard to say whether it should go to e7 or c5 there. Now, if he plays that, can't I take the... that's the trick. If I take the knight, he takes back, I take the pawn, and he can exchange queens, and then he can take this pawn down here with his bishop and attack my trapped rook. So I can't take that. It's a poison pawn. So I should move this bishop, I guess. Let's keep it on this diagonal for now. I guess I could try and play c5 later to undermine this pawn and attack along this diagonal. So this bishop won't be trapped there forever, I hope. Now maybe knight d7 to f6 is an idea. Okay, so let's say I could go... I don't actually need the bishop on this diagonal. It's not doing anything here. So let's go to this square. And if he wants to weaken his king structure further, I can go back to g6. The pawn's in front of his king, but I don't think that's good for him. And going to this diagonal gets me away from that take. It does allow him to attack the bishop, yeah. And if I go here, he can still take it. So I'm going to let him take that bishop, since I can't stop it anyway. Oh, but now he does have a threat of bishop to f3. So let's shore up this diagonal. I guess on bishop to f3, I can play bishop to e4 there. Probably should play that. So in light of that, maybe this move c6 might have been a waste of time. So where is my queen going? He can attack the queen from this square and that square. Queen could retreat to g6, I guess. Or back to e5. I'm not sure which one I like better. Maybe it's more active here on g6. And knight to that square. I can take the knight. And I still am thinking of playing c5 at some point. And knight f6. I think knight f6 is a good move to get in first. Just to get the defenders over here on the king side where they belong. And now he can play this move. Yes, he can now play knight e5 here. And where does the queen go? Where does it go? It can go here and attack the bishop. Queen to f5, attacking the bishop on f4. And so he doesn't have time to harass my queen with the move g4. He's got to defend the bishop first. And maybe I should throw in the move h5 to stop the move g4. And would also give my queen a square on h7. He's traded off his light squared bishop, so there's no natural piece to attack the queen on this square. To chase it off that diagonal. Okay, just retreating the bishop, very logical. Blocks the g-pawn. What's my plan? I can harass his bishop with my knight. Or I can go ahead with c5. Now let's think about c5 for a bit. If I play c5, he takes, I take. That's kind of what I want. Opening up a line for this bishop here. And that would make my harassing moves with the knight stronger. But he could consider pushing the pawn instead. So if I play c5 and he plays d5, I would take, and he comes back with the queen. No, he doesn't. Now I guess I just take the pawn. If he pushes it. He can defend. He can offer to trade queens. I guess that's all right. It brings his knight back. But it gives this bishop something to do. So he's probably going to take here with the knight. I would assume that's the idea. And then from here, from there, the knight can go to a couple squares. But no big threats that I see. So let's put a rook on that knight and threaten to win a pawn here. Why not? Oh, he defends with the bishop. That's interesting. So, can I just harass that bishop? Where do I want? I was thinking of moving the knight and pushing the F pawn. But if I move the knight to this square, I'm blocking the action of the rook, which this is otherwise the normal square for the knight. And he might throw in c4 to harass the knight there. So what else is there? Taking doesn't seem to make much sense right now. I could just double up. And if he wants to exchange his bishop for my knight, I guess that I will allow that. So I'm going to double rooks on the d file here and see if this permits me some inroads into his position. It's not a symmetrical pawn position. It's a 4-3 over here and a 3-2 over here. And now I've sustained some pawn damage. But with pawns on both sides of the board, a bishop is sometimes a better piece than the knight. So that's what I'm hoping will be the case now. So the knight is guarding a key square here. This d2 square, I guess it is. If I could get a rook there, I'd be attacking this pawn and that pawn. Okay, he's going to harass my bishop. Do I care? So it's a good diagonal for the bishop, isn't it? Yeah, let's put a pawn up there and slow down his advance. And what can I can think of pushing pawns and dislodging this knight, I suppose. Well, there he goes. So he's just going to allow me to penetrate here. Isn't this a good move? He can come to this square attacking this pawn. But this is a kind of a weak and worthless pawn anyway. And if he goes there, I can just advance it and chase his knight away. So his knight is not stable there defending that pawn. So where is he going to go? He can go to this square with check, and then he can go to these light squares after that. I don't see the harm here. Let's go ahead and push that pawn. So this seems to win material. When the knight moves, this goes with check, and I can at least win the exchange. Ah, no, it doesn't. Well, I can win a pawn. I can win a pawn. I guess that's all I can win. But that's worthwhile. That's a good thing to do, winning a pawn, isn't it? Oh, I could chase the knight again. Ah, but he could go right back to where he was defending that pawn. So let's leave the knight there. And let's take a pawn. And I might just trade the bishop for the knight anyway, because after he takes back, I'm going to be able to double rooks on the 7th rank, which is usually quite effective. He's going to force me to trade, is that right? Can I take first? I don't think so. Bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes. Yeah, that's no good. Bishop would have to retreat. So I can take, he takes, then I take the knight, he takes, and then he can attack my weak pawn here, and I can attack his weak pawns. He'll have two of them here and here. Any other options? I could just defend the rook, but then he has this move here. It's not clear. So rook to d7, knight to c4, rook to d2, knight c4, forking these two rooks. And then bishop takes here, check. King moves, rook bishop takes rook, knight takes rook. Let's just do it this way. I'll take here, take the rook, take the knight, and I have my choice of defending this pawn or attacking these. The general rule is it's better to attack than to defend. You want to have an active rook in the endgame, but you have to account for the specifics. So rook here, rook takes, and he moves one of these pawns, or he comes back to defend, or he attacks this pawn, and I attack that one. He's going to win this pawn too, unless I come back to defend at some point. Now he can't defend this pawn, which is interesting. So I'm going to get an outside pass pawn. So he didn't do that in the best way. It would have been better to take immediately with his rook and get behind my pawn and force me to either defend it or give it up. But this should be enough to win. So I have an extra pawn on this side of the board and an isolated pawn over here, but one that's passed. So I can use this pawn to distract his king and win with these pawns over here in the endgame.
Check.
Yeah, now I have two passed pawns. Let's see. I don't want to make a target of this pawn. I could push it up to here to stop these guys. But I think instead I'm going to push this pawn. The thing is, after I push that pawn, his rook could come to this square and attack the pawn from the side. So I have to push this all the way to the front to make it too dangerous. Too dangerous for white to leave, for his rook to leave this file. Now I have a threat of just coming over here with check. And queening the pawn. His king needs to be on one of these two squares here, either h2 or g2. When it's up on the third rank or above, then you can come in with check, unless it's hiding behind a pawn. So, but when there's no pawn cover for the king, it needs to be on one of these two squares. The idea is you come here with check, and the king takes, yeah, and then the pawn queens. But here, you come here with check, and the king comes towards the rook, but you queen. And he doesn't get to take your rook. So this should be a win.
Check.
He can delay things a bit. But his king has nowhere he can run, but he can't hide. His king is too exposed here. So he can give one more check. I can take, and he can take this pawn. Doesn't, none of this matters.
Check.
Check. And you get a queen. And you just have won a rook. So this is all good enough to win. Doesn't matter if he takes my pawns.
Check.
I can still win with the rook. Sort of, it's even easier in a way. I mean, it's not a, this Blitz game has a 5-second increment. So I don't have to race against the clock to defeat him.
Check.
But this is a simple win.
Checkmate.
Okay, good game. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'll see you again soon. And leave any comments you have, like I said, about the, if you have any opinion about the colors or the contrast on the pieces, if you can see them clearly. Thanks a lot. Bye.